again and welcome back to part 6 of Alicia's Rose Garden Crochet Along. We're still working with the same hook, the 5mm, still working with the double knit yarn. I'm going to carry on from the last row that we did in video 5, which was the back post doubles all the way along. The next row I'm going to work with the cinnamon colour again, which is this one, and we're going to start in the corner as always. Going to start with a back post double. So into that corner space, there's the space there between the two sets of doubles. We're going to work 2 doubles, chain 1 and another 2 doubles, we're going to skip 1 stitch here, and we're going to work a 3 double cluster into the next stitch. So into the stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over, into the stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over, into the stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over through 2, and then we come through all 3 of the stitches at the same time and chain 1, skip a stitch, and we're going to do exactly the same again, a 3 double crochet cluster, chain 1, skip a stitch, and oops, I've done a full double there, sorry, skip a stitch, 1, 2 and 3, yarn over and through all the stitches together. I'm just going to work exactly the same all the way along this row until you reach the next corner where we'll do the 2 sets of doubles with a chain 1 in between. At the end of this row you will have 45 of these 3 double crochet clusters. 1, 2 and 3, and then chain 1, skip a stitch and work the next 3 double crochet cluster. So it's a fairly straightforward row, and I'll let you carry on if you want to pause the video and work these clusters. And it's a stitch that we've done before on the blanket. Skip a stitch and work the 3 double crochet cluster and the chain. So if you want to carry on working around this row, and I'll see you when we get to the end. When you've worked all the way along to the corner, we're just going to chain 1 and then work the 2 doubles with the chain 1 and 2 more doubles into that corner stitch, and then we're ready to start on this next side and work the first 3 double crochet cluster into the second stitch there. We skip that first one, chain 1 straight into the next cluster, just skipping 1 stitch in between, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of the row. We're going to join as always with a slip stitch into the first stitch, snip off the yarn and fasten off, and I'll see you when we get to the start of the next row. We're now ready to start the next row. I'm using the pale lemon again for this next row. We're going to start again with a slip knot onto the hook and work the 2 doubles, a chain 1 and 2 doubles into this corner. We're now going to work a cross stitch. So the very first one is going to be over the 2 stitches that formed the corner. So we're going to skip the 2 stitches, and into the space in between we're going to work a double. We're now going to yarn over, we're going to work back into the corner space with a double, so that the 2 stitches have actually crossed over each other. Going to skip the cluster, we're going to do the first double after the cluster, the second double we work before the cluster, and that forms the cross stitch there. We're going to just work that all the way along as before, just working alternate stitch. So we're going after the cluster, then the second half of the stitch is before the cluster, the next one's going to be after the cluster, the next one before the cluster. You can see there that it forms a cross stitch. So if you just want to go along to the end, to the next corner, and I'll meet you there and show you what we're going to do. We're coming towards the end of the row here, still working 1 cross around each cluster stitch till we get to this last cluster here. So we've done a double in the space before, a double in the space after. On the corner stitches we're going to work into the corner space with a double, and then we're going to come back and work before those 2 stitches for the last cross of this side, and then straight into the corner space we're going to do the 2 doubles, chain 1 and the 2 doubles again. And then as we started the first side, the first cross is going to go either side of the 2 stitches that formed the corner there. So skip the 2 stitches and work a double, and then work the second double back into the corner space, and then straight on to the next cluster. We're going to do the first half of the cross after the stitch, and then the second half before the stitch. We're just going to carry on all the way along the row, working the first and the last stitch. The cross stitch is going to be worked over the 2 stitches that form the corners, but all the others are just worked at either side of the clusters. Just carry on all the way around. When you get to the final cross stitch that you'll work in the corner, you'll just slip stitch into the first stitch, snip off the yarn and fasten off, and we'll be ready for the next round. So I'll let you pause the video and carry on with this row, and I'll see you for the beginning of the next one. When we've worked all the way around and we've got the cross stitching over each of the corner stitches and each of the 3 double crochet cluster stitches, we're going to join in the next yarn. In this case I'm using a brown, and we're going to start in the corner with a single crochet, 2 chain and another single in that same stitch. We're now just going to work a back post single all the way around the blanket, so just the normal pick up the loop, yarn over and pull through. So we go before the stitch, behind the stitch, pick up that loop, yarn over and through both. On the crosses we're going to do them in turn. So there's the first one and then the second half of the cross. We're just going to work that same stitch all the way around until you get to the corner, and each corner will just be the single but with 2 chains and then a second single. And then when you get all the way around, you can just fasten off, slip stitch into the first stitch, fasten off and snip off the yarn, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. So we've completed this row of back post singles. The next row that we're going to do is worked actually over 2 rows, the stitch, and I'm working a star stitch. So for the first half of the star, we work on the right side of the blanket. So I'm going to start off with a front post half double, followed by another half double, chain 1, and then we're going to work another 2 half doubles into that same corner stitch. Now this stitch might seem a little bit complicated, but once you get into the rhythm of the stitch it will be a little bit easier. So we're going to skip the first stitch that we can't see there. We're going to do a half double into the next stitch, followed by a chain 1, and then it's this chain 1 that we're going to work into first. So as you can see there, we've got a gap where the chain 1 is. We're going to put the hook into that stitch and pick up a loop. We've now got 2 loops on the hook. We're going to go into this vertical stitch here of the half double, the vertical bar, going to put the hook into that bar there, and we're going to pick up a loop and pull through. We've now got 3 on the hook. We're going to go into the space where we did the stitch and pick up a loop, and we're going to do the same on the following 2 stitches. So pick up a loop on the second one, pick up a loop on the third. So we've got 6 loops on the hook altogether. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 6 stitches and then chain 1. That's the first half of the first star. So we're now going to work into this space again here where the chain formed. We'll call that the eye. So we're going to put the hook into that space and pick up a loop. We're going to put the hook through the vertical bar of that stitch and pick up a loop. We've now got 3. We're going to go into the stitch itself and pick up a loop, and then the same in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. We've now got 6 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 6 and chain 1 to fasten off. We're going to carry on all the way along, but I will do a few more of these stitches and show you what to do when we reach the corner there. So each new stitch is worked exactly the same, that we're going to go into that space where the chain formed and pick up a loop, into the vertical bar of the stitch, pick up a loop, into the stitch itself, pick up a loop. We've now got 4, and then into the first and the second following stitches, 6 loops on the hook, yarn forward, pull through all 6 and chain 1. We've now got the next eye to start the next stitch, so into that space pick up a loop, into the vertical pick up a loop, into the stitch itself pick up a loop, into the next 2 stitches we pick up a loop from each. We're then going to yarn over and pull through all 6 of the loops on the hook and a chain to fasten off, and then we can go straight on to the next, working the same way. We've always got 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 6 and a chain 1, and then back into that first space, into the bar, into the stitch, and into the next 2 stitches. Pick up a loop from both. So we just carry on working this half of the star all the way to the corner space. I'll just leave the video running here so that you can just see how the stitches worked. I do apologise if you've already done star stitches and you're quite at ease working them, but it is a little bit different to other stitches. I just wanted to be sure that you've got the stitch before we work round to the end, into the bar, and then into the stitch, the next one and the next one, yarn over, pull up through, oh I've got a knot there, and then a chain 1 to fasten off. I'll try and work over those ends of the yarn there. So into the eye, into the bar, into the stitch, and then we're going to pick up a loop from the next 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through all together, into the eye, into the bar of the first stitch, into the stitch itself, and then the following 2 stitches. I'm going to pick up a loop, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through them all. Into the stitch, and also pick up a loop through the next 2. And you'll know that you've got it right if you've got 6 loops on your hook each time, and then don't forget that chain to fasten off so that we've got the eye for the next stitch along. Then again back into the first space, into the bar, and then we've got the 3 loops that we're picking up, 1 from the stitch itself and then 1 from the next 2. So the last one that we're going to do on this side, we go into the eye, into the bar, and then we've got into the stitch, and then 1 loop picked up from the last 2, yarn over and chain 1. We're now into the corner space here, so we're going to just go straight in and do the 2 half doubles, a chain 1 and the 2 half doubles. And then if you remember the first stitch on this next side, we're going to work into, not into the first stitch that was the corner stitch, we're going to work into the next one there with a half double, and then chain 1, and that chain 1 is going to be the start of the next star stitch. So we pick up a loop from that space, pick up a loop from the bar, pick up a loop from the stitch and the next 2, pull through and chain 1, and then we're ready to start the next one. So again, if you want to pause the video now and carry on working a star stitch all the way around with the 2 half doubles in the 2 corners with a chain 1 in between, and I'll see you when we get to the end of this row. We're coming round to the end of the row. Not sure if I said to fasten off, but we don't on this one. If you have done, you can quite easily just join the yarn with a knot and then work over it. So into the bar there, and then 1, 2, 3 to give 6, into the eye, into the bar of the stitch, into the stitch itself, and the next 2, into the eye, into the bar, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, the last chain 1, and we're going to join into the top of that first stitch. Just pull that chain a little bit tighter there, and then join with a slip stitch into the top of the stitch there. We're now going to turn our work over because we're going to carry on working on the opposite side to finish off the star. We can work any of these ends in afterwards. So the first stitch, we're not going to work the corner until the very end, where we'll just work 2 half doubles, 1 chain and 2 half doubles, and then we'll join at the very end of the row into this half double that I'm doing here. So we do 2 chain, which is going to count as the half double, and then where the eye was here of the last star, we're going to work 2 half doubles into that space, and then we're going to go straight across to the next one. You'll be able to see where the spaces are along this row. You can see there we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. That's the space that we're going to work in. It was the chain space that we made the first loop from, that we called the eye. So again, into that next one, 2 half doubles, and again into the next one the same, 2 half doubles, along into the next one and 2 half doubles. So we're just working 2 half doubles into the eye that we worked in on the previous row, and we just ignore all of the other stitches, just work the 2 half doubles into the eye, and we're going to carry on all the way around exactly the same until we get to the end. Once you get to the end, you'll do the last eye, which is here. We've got 1 here, and then we'll go straight into the corner working the 2 half doubles, a chain 1 and a half double, and then go to this space here where we'll work 1 half double and then 2 half doubles in each of these eyes all the way along. Once you get round to the other side, you'll just slip stitch into, not forgetting that we've got the corner to do on this last side where we'll work the eye there, then straight into the corner where we'll work 2 half doubles, 1 chain and 2 half doubles, and then we'll join into the top of this 2 chain that counts as the first half double. So I hope you've enjoyed. Oh, I'll just show you what the star stitch looks like from the right side once we've worked the 2 half doubles on the way back. and it creates a complete star that again looks like a little flower. I hope you've enjoyed this part of the tutorial, and I hope you'll come back and join me for the next part. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.